I swear, all I wanted that night was a peaceful dinner. Just one. But the second I sat down, I could feel it, the tension crawling through the air like static. My dad barely looked at me when he barked. Your brother earned everything. You earned nothing. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I froze. My hand tightened around my fork. I hadn't even taken a bite yet. Just sat there, quietly. But apparently, that was still too much.
He didn't stop there.
You're lucky we even let you in, he added, like I was some outsider they were doing a favor for. Then came my mom's voice. That snort she always gives when she's about to say something venomous. She's just jealous, she muttered to her wine glass, like I wasn't 3 feet away. It hit like a slap. My cheeks burned. I stared at the table, heart pounding, forcing myself to breathe slowly, like I'd taught myself to do when they cornered me like this. And Chase? My brother just leaned back with his stupid smug grin, swirling wine like he was the king of the world. Probably thought I'd sit there and take it. Like always. I was about to say something, I don't even know what. But then my grandfather stood up at the end of the table. Raymond Foster doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't have to. That's enough, he said, calm but heavy, like a judge handing down a sentence. Chase scoffed. Grandpa, please. We're just being real.
Sit
down, Grandpa said, with a sharpness I'd never heard from him before. And shut your mouth. The silence that followed?
It was terrifying.
And then he pulled out this old envelope. Yellowed.
Creased.
It looked like it had been hidden away for years. He placed it on the table, right in front of Chase. And then looked at me. I told her I'd only bring this out if they went too far, he said gently. They just did. My heart nearly stopped. I didn't know what it was. Didn't even remember what I could have said or done to warrant this. What is that? My dad asked, frowning. Grandpa didn't even look at him. A letter. From Doris Walker. My dad went pale. My mom's lips parted. You said she moved. She did, Grandpa replied. But not before she told me the truth. Chase was already opening the letter, still cocky. Still convinced he'd win. Then I watched the color drain from his face line by line. I will never forget that. What the hell is this? He whispered, staring down at the page. Grandpa turned to my dad. You remember when Emily started that little company in college? The one you said had no future. My father's jaw clenched. She worked day and night, Grandpa said. While Chase was out partying and you two were busy bragging about him. Then when she brought in the funding deal, you told her to sign everything over. Said it was for the family. It was like a dam broke inside me. I remembered it. That tiny office. Me, shaking from exhaustion, signing that paper because my dad told me it was temporary. That they'd help me manage things just for a while. You lied to me, I whispered. Grandpa looked at me. They never intended to give it back, sweetheart. Doris saw the documents after the sale. She left because she couldn't watch them rob you blind. He turned back to my dad. And the trust? You never updated it. It reverts in 30 days. All of it. Every share. Every asset. Back to her. Chase stood up so fast his chair toppled.
No.
This isn't happening. I earned that company. You earned nothing, Grandpa cut in. And that's when I felt it. Not anger. Not sadness.
Power.
I stood slowly, my legs trembling but steady enough. I looked at my mom, then at Chase, then my father. You told me I earned nothing? I said, voice steady. I gave up everything for you. Because I loved this family. I paused. But I'm done apologizing for existing. Then I looked at Grandpa and said, I want it back. He nodded, eyes glassy with emotion. I knew you would. The next morning, I woke up early, earlier than I had in months. It wasn't from anxiety. It was something else. Like my spine had finally straightened after years of bending. Like the weight of all their guilt had been quietly lifted off me and dumped back where it belonged, on them. My phone buzzed.
Dad.
That letter doesn't change anything. You should be grateful we even put your name on the original paperwork. I stared at the screen for a full minute. Then I turned it off and slid the phone face down on the kitchen counter. Let them stew. By 10:30 a.m., I was sitting across from Grandpa in his study. His eyes were sharp, clearer than I'd seen them in years.
"There's more you need to know," he said.
He pulled out a binder, neatly organized, dated, signed. Financial statements. The trust documents. Records of every single transfer. It was all there. "You didn't just build that company," he said. "They used your name to get the first round of funding. They cashed in your pitch deck. Your code. Your product." I blinked hard. They told me they revised everything. That my prototype was too basic. He gave a tight smile. "They just slapped Chase's name on your slides." I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed. "So what happens now?" "You don't need to sue," he said. "You don't need revenge. You own the company again in 29 days. Legally." I didn't speak. I couldn't. My throat felt tight. Because it wasn't just about money. Or control. It was about how they made me feel worthless for years, knowing I'd built it. Grandpa reached for my hand. "They buried your light. But it never went out." That night, Chase showed up at my apartment. Uninvited. I opened the door to find him standing there in a designer jacket, holding 2 coffees like we were buddies from college. "Hey," he said casually. "Can we talk?" I leaned on the frame, not moving. "About what?" "How you stole everything I built and let everyone believe I was just a charity case." He shifted, the smile slipping. "Look, I get that you're upset. But if we go public with this, the board's going to panic. The press too. It could tank the stock." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean my stock?" He swallowed. "Come on, Em. There's no need to blow things up. We can figure this out." "Did you ever once feel bad?" I asked quietly. He didn't answer. "Did you feel even a little sick when I was folding shirts at a thrift store while you were being interviewed by Forbes?" "Emily, please. I thought you didn't want the company." "No," I snapped. "You hoped I didn't." I stepped back and started to close the door. He moved forward, panicked. "Emily, wait. Just, let's make a deal. We can split it. 50-50. We don't need to fight." I looked him in the eye. "You're right," I said. Hope flickered in his face. "We don't need to fight," I finished. "Because there's nothing to split. You stole it. I'm just taking it back." And then I shut the door.
Hard.
I stood there for a moment, breathing. Not shaking. Not crying. Just standing.
Still.
The next few days were chaos. I kept my head down while Chase scrambled, calling investors, pulling favors, trying to convince people that the letter was fake. But it wasn't. It had a witness. It had notarization. And Grandpa? He wasn't sitting out anymore. He backed me every step. I even got a call from Doris Walker herself. She cried when I answered. "I'm so sorry, Emily," she said. "I left because I couldn't bear what they were doing to you. But I kept copies. I knew you'd need them one day." We met at a diner the next morning. She handed me a flash drive. "You always had the gift," she said, brushing her hand over mine. "Your father, he just didn't want to admit a woman could do it better." I choked back a laugh. It wasn't funny, but it kind of was. Because after all these years, I was finally waking up to the truth. I had never been the problem. By the end of the week, the whispers had started. I wasn't even trying to make a scene. Honestly, I just wanted peace. But you know how it is, truth doesn't stay buried long. Especially not when it's this ugly. Chase's assistant, Heather, texted me out of nowhere. Just 2 words. "I'm sorry." Then she sent a screenshot of a company group chat. One of the execs had forwarded an email about the ownership reversion, along with a line that nearly made me drop my phone. "If this is real, Chase is out. And she's back." I don't know why, but seeing that, "she's back," hit me harder than I expected. Like I'd been gone. Like I'd been forgotten. Like I didn't exist in that world anymore. But I did. I always had. They just wrote me out.
Until now.
The next day, I walked into the company building. My building. No announcement. No cameras. Just me. Hair tied back, no makeup, wearing the same boots I'd worn when I'd first pitched the idea 5 years ago in a coffee-stained hoodie. As soon as I stepped inside, eyes turned. Some people smiled. Some looked away. Some just froze, like they'd seen a ghost. I walked up to the front desk. The same receptionist who once told me, "The boardroom is for real partners only," looked like she was about to swallow her gum.
"Morning," I said.
"I'm heading up to 18? Why, yes, of course, Miss Foster." Ms. Foster. Not Emily. Not her. Not the failed daughter. Ms. Freaking
Foster.
When the elevator doors opened on the executive floor, Chase was there, standing in the hallway,
Pale.
sweating through his expensive shirt. "You can't just waltz in here like this," he hissed, stepping in front of me. I didn't stop walking. He had to step back or get run over. "You're causing a panic," he added. "Good," I said. "Let them panic. I've been panicking for years." The board meeting was already in progress. I didn't knock. I pushed the doors open and walked in like I belonged there, because I did. Every single head turned. Some whispered my name. One guy, Derek something, stood up so fast he nearly knocked over his chair. "Holy sh, Emily Foster?" I gave a little wave.
"Hi."
"I'm here to clear something up." Chase burst in behind me, red-faced. "She's not. She's the rightful majority shareholder." Grandpa's voice boomed from the corner of the room. He stood, arms crossed, beside our corporate attorney. I hadn't seen him there. He gave me a wink. "She owns 54%, the lawyer said calmly, holding up the documents. Reversion clause kicked in 2 days ago. As of now, Emily Foster is the principal owner and CEO of Innovark." Dead silence. Chase turned to the board, desperate. "You can't be serious. She hasn't been in this office in years." "She built this office," one of the VPs murmured. I stepped forward. "I made mistakes," I said clearly. "I walked away when I should have stayed. I trusted people I shouldn't have. But I never stopped believing in what we created. And I'm not here to destroy it. I'm here to fix what was broken, starting with the truth." Someone clapped. Then another. Then the whole room. Chase stood frozen, humiliated. "I'll call a vote," he said through clenched teeth. The board chair looked at him and said flatly, "No need. We already did." I took a breath, looked around. For the first time in years, I wasn't surviving. I was standing. "I'll be back on Monday," I said. "There's a lot of work to do." And then I walked out. As the elevator closed behind me, I didn't cry, but I did smile, because for the first time, the future felt like mine again. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was anxious, because I couldn't stop replaying it. The elevator ride. The stunned faces. Chase, red with rage but powerless. And the applause. They clapped for me. But once the high wore off, the ache came back. Not because of what I'd done, but because of who wasn't proud. My mother didn't call. My father didn't text. Not even a fake "we're happy for you." I wasn't surprised. But it still stung. The next day, I drove out to the old family house. I hadn't been back since the night they tore me down at the dinner table. I didn't go inside. I parked across the street. The curtains were drawn. The blinds closed. But I could feel them in there. Probably still talking about how ungrateful I was. Probably rewriting the story in their heads again. I wasn't there to argue. I was there to let go. So, I pulled out the envelope Grandpa gave me. Inside was a picture, me, age 20, standing in front of the first warehouse we leased for the startup. Smiling. Greasy ponytail. Exhausted, hopeful eyes. I buried it under a tree across from the porch. That was the version of me they never saw. They never wanted to. Let them sit in their silence. I wasn't asking for permission anymore. The company welcomed me back louder than I expected. The moment I walked in on Monday morning, there were flowers on my desk. A card, unsigned, just said, "Welcome home, boss." It was surreal. But I didn't waste time soaking it in. I dove in. Day 1, I fired Chase's cronies, quietly, legally, cleanly. No drama. Day 2, I launched a staff-wide audit of every financial decision made in the past 3 years. Day 3, I made my first boardroom address. I wore the same green blazer I'd thrifted back when I was broke. I'm not here to punish, I told them. I'm here to rebuild trust. Because the people who suffer the most when a company lies aren't the ones in this room. They're the ones in cubicles who believe they're working for something real. There was a pause. Then someone from marketing teared up. Another whisper. She's not like him. They meant Chase. Good. But the personal fallout came fast. My mom showed up at my apartment 2 nights later. No warning. Just a knock and a floral perfume cloud trailing behind her. I opened the door. She looked around like she was expecting cameras. Well, she said, this is cute. I didn't invite her in. She crossed her arms. I just wanted to say that your father's upset. He feels you embarrassed him. I blinked. He yelled at me in front of everyone. And you humiliated your brother. No. I cut in. Chase humiliated himself. I just gave him the mirror. Her lips pressed into a line. I don't want to fight, Mom, I said, quieter. But you don't get to rewrite this. She tilted her head. We did what we thought was best for the family. You mean best for Chase? Silence. I needed you, I whispered. Back then. I needed you to believe me. Just once. She didn't answer. Just stood there. And for the first time I saw it, she couldn't. Not because I was wrong, but because admitting what they did to me would shatter everything she told herself to sleep at night. I'm not angry anymore, I said. I'm free. Then I gently closed the door. And this time I didn't cry. 3 days later, Chase sent me an email. Subject line. Truce. I opened it. We were kids. We didn't know what we were doing. I'm sorry. I mean it. No request for a meeting. No manipulation. Just that. I stared at it for a long time. Then I replied, thank you. I hope you find peace. But I'm moving forward. Alone. 2 months later, I stood on the same stage Chase once stood on during his visionary founder speech. But this time, it wasn't for cameras. It was for the staff. For my people. I want to thank you, I told them, for staying through the noise, for working hard even when the truth was buried. I won't forget that. They clapped. Not out of obligation but belief. And I knew, in that moment, I'd finally earned something bigger than approval. Respect. Later that week, I visited Grandpa at his little house by the lake. He handed me tea. Smiled. You look like your mom did when she was your age, he said quietly. I didn't say anything, but stronger. That made me laugh a little. He reached over, pulled a key out of his pocket. What's this? I asked. To the old house. I signed it over. You don't have to live there, but it's yours now. Your legacy should never be tied to shame. I blinked fast. Thank you. He smiled. You've done what most never could. Not just reclaimed what was stolen, but held on to your heart in the process. I didn't go back to the house. Not to stay. But I visited once alone. Walked through the dusty rooms. Stood in the hallway where my dad once shouted I was worthless. Then I whispered, not anymore. I turned off the lights, closed the door, and walked out into a future that finally belonged to me. No apology. No permission. Just truth. And that was enough.